Okay, so here we have a Minneapolis Moline ZAU. We're going to change the seals that are leaking in the rear axles, both sides. I've already got this one off. I'll show you how to take the other one off. And the PTO is also leaking pretty bad. We want to put new fluid in the transmission housing here, and all of this is linked together, so if we don't change these seals, it's just leak back out. So try to see this. Also, this tractor has a belt driven wheel. It also is leaking pretty good. See down here. So eventually we're going to put a new tire on the front. I've got a new tire for the back. And problem we did find is the oil filter, they don't make it anymore. So got a conversion kit ordered. We're going to slap a screw-on filter on there and she should be ready to run. Alright, so to take this off, you gotta screw in, bolt in the middle here. This is a 3/4 inch bolt. Be careful if you use the impact wrench, you will wring them off, especially on these old tractors that have already been painted. This one's been painted over before at some point, and I've already wrung off a couple on the back steps when I was taking it off to get the tire off. So just be careful. Sometimes you have to break them loose with a breaker bar before you stick an impact wrench on it, but these should pop right off. I already loosened them up. This washer comes off right here. There's also a washer on the bottom of that one. 4 bolts. You may have to hold this to keep it from spinning, but just like that. And then that slides off. It's heavy. Set that to the side, we'll get it cleaned up before we put it back on. This also has a keyway in it. Be careful not to lose that. You'll need that to be able to put it back on. So looks like I soaked this with some engine degreaser, try to get some of that oil and grease off of it so we can see. Alright, so got my bucket under here. These are four bolts that were holding this on. They are 9/16. There's a washer behind each one. I took those 4 off, and this, if you haven't already drained your fluid out, you might want to drain it first. This one doesn't have a whole lot in it because it's been leaking for so long sitting here, so we're probably going to get a little bit, but not the whole thing. So those 4 bolts loosen up and this slides off. Be careful, there's a metal shim behind or between this plate and the housing. Some of these have a snap ring on some of the models. This one does not. There may be a snap ring holding it on there. There's your metal shim, you don't want to lose that. And there's your housing. It comes off. Get that cleaned up, I'll show you where the seal's at. Alright, so I got this flange cleaned up a little bit at least. Your seal that's doing all the leaking is right here. It's a national seal. I'm not sure what the number is. I've got part numbers for all of this stuff written down, and I will link them in the video and give you some assistance on where to locate them, because a lot of parts for these older tractors are very hard to find. But we're going to have to get this seal out of this housing, and we don't want to damage it, so we got to be very careful not to mess those threads up and not to break this housing. Okay, I'm going to bring you down a little lower here so you can see what I'm about to do. I've got this turned over. The seal comes out this way. So I've turned it over. Got a good old punch, chisel, and we're going to try to hammer it out. Now it doesn't matter if we damage the old seal because it's not going back in there. Got a brand new one to go in there. But that's the lip of it right there, just below those threads. I don't know if you can see where my finger's at. You got some threads, and then that's the lip of the seal. And what we're going to do is put that punch right on that lip and gently drive it out. Found another shim. Don't want to mess that up. Okay, here we are. I got the seal out of the flange here. Yeah, that one came out. It was a fight, but no damage. Always feel the inside where that seal seats at. There's no damage. So yeah, and this is the seal of the belt pulley. It goes right there. There must have been more fluid than I thought in it left, so I'm getting ready to pull the drain plug and see what's left in it. Okay, so here's the drain plug. We're at the back of the tractor. Right underneath here, there's a square head on it. Here's the drain plug. I got it loosened up. Gonna see how much comes out of it. I don't think it's going to be all that much in there, but we're about to see what happens.
Any more coming out?
Yep. Okay, so we got the drain plug out, and obviously we drained all of the fluid out. Filled that bucket up almost twice. So like I said, it holds 7 gallons total. And that is 140 weight gear oil, which that's 85 140 is what's going back in it. So now that we've got that drain, let's get that out of the way, and we'll work on something else. So to reassemble this belt pulley, we got to put the seal back in the hub, and then we'll put it all back on the tractor. Alright, so we want to be careful not to damage this new seal while we're putting it back in. So I'm going to use a scrap piece of wood here so it will apply even pressure all the way around it. We just kind of have to move it around a little bit while we tap it, and it should drive the seal straight down in. Give it a couple more taps, make sure we're flush all the way around. So see here, we got it flush with the hub. We don't want to drive it too deep. That's what it looks like. The other side. Nice and flush with that hub. No, we're ready to bolt it back on the tractor. Okay, so we're ready to bolt this pulley, belt pulley assembly back on. I don't have anything that is belt driven to use with this tractor, but not right now anyway. Maybe find something, but we got to make sure it's not leaking, because even if it's not being used, that wheel still spins, and if it leaks, it'll leak all our fluid out. So we're gonna go ahead and put this back together. We've got our hub assembly with the new oil seal in. That'll keep that out. That's what was leaking on the other one. Don't forget your spacers or shims. This one's a little bent, but it'll be alright. Metal shims. Those are very important. So those will go on first. Like that. Hang there for a minute. And then hub. This goes on here. There we go. I missed the holes. Hold on. Careful to line these up like they should be. There we go. It's a little tricky, but don't let it fight you too hard. And then Next we have the keyway. Clean that up a little bit. Keyway rides in here. It stopped it from free spinning. Gonna actually put a little bit of grease on it. Some of this old oil. Grease the keyway up a little bit on the shaft. Shaft's not in too bad shape. We're gonna have to do something with that axle because it's rusted. But put a little bit on there to help it slide. Keyway in. There we go. And then on goes our pulley. So we got to line this keyway up. There it is right there. And that part right there goes on the back side. Here is the front. Pretty sure. Make sure I got this right. Nope, that's the back. This counterweight goes in the front. See where the bolts are. So let's find our keyway. It's over there. Oh, we're gonna have to turn this. So I did that before I greased it up. But well, actually, let me turn this. Alright. There we go. It's on there. Now the trick is going to be lining up these bolt holes. Just trying to look and see if I can. She turned on us. I may have to pull this back off. I don't think. Sorry, I got a little confused for a second. These bolt back on through. Get them all hand started. Okay, that's good enough. Now, a little hot out here. These other 4 bolts that came out of the pulley didn't technically have to come out because they're unless you were separating this hub, and if you remember, those separate the wheel from the hub. We were able to pull it all off without doing that. So technically, alright, so now we're just going to tighten down this hub back to the axle here. Be careful, you're using the impact. Get them snug. I'm happy with that. And now the wheel can go on. There we go. Sometimes it'll fight you. Probably easier if we did separate the hub from the wheel, but we didn't, so we'll do it the hard way. Now these 4 bolts go back in here. Okay, so now that we got the wheel back on, I've got the bolts in hand tight. These are 3/4 inch socket. Tighten them down. I'm gonna have to hold the wheel. Keep it from turning. And then this goes back on. Clean that up a little bit. Over here. Same size. Got all of these tightened down. Spin the wheel. Bearing feels good and smooth. I checked that before I took it apart. just to make sure while we were in there we didn't have to change a bearing, but everything feels good and smooth. She spins. We'll just hope it doesn't leak and pray, but everything should be fine.